Today, we're going to talk about the power of negative ions and why it's really important that we get out to the beach and the oceans and how much value that they have for our immune system. When the sun comes out and when we go to the beach and the ocean, these activities generate what are called, or those phenomena generate what are called high density of negative ions. Negative doesn't mean negative, it actually is quite positive. Negative ions are extremely healthy for the immune system and a number of other things. So I'm going to walk you through why that's true, so to arm you with the fact that going out to the beach, going out to the ocean, in fact, going out to nature and these kinds of things are extremely beneficial to boosting the immune system. That's what we're going to go over today. Your immune system, think about it as a core. All the other systems are interrelated to the immune system, the cardiovascular system, the neural system, everything. So if your immune system is in good shape, it really proliferates throughout your body. In many ways, all diseases can be traced back down to some dysfunction and weakening of the immune system. So our goal, common sense people's goals who don't want to get fooled by this fake science, should be to focus on boosting the immune system by any means necessary. I've talked about the importance of building community. When you're around good people and you sing and you dance and you hang out together with good friends, you boost your immunity. You lower inflammation, you boost antimicrobials. Vitamin D boosts immunity. Vitamin A from the green leafy vegetables. Vitamin D, by the way, from the sun or supplements, boosts immunity. Zinc, iodine, and vitamin C, all these things are important. There's many things. So what is an ion? Okay, what is an ion? So if you remember basic chemistry, if you take a neutral atom, right? And if the atom, so all atoms in nature, if you take the periodic table, all atoms have a certain number of neutrons, a certain amount of electrons and protons, okay? Carbon has different number of neutrons, electrons, and protons than, let's say, oxygen does, and so on. Now, for any particular atom, if it loses an electron, right, that means there's an imbalance, it'll have more of a positive charge. That's called a cation, okay? If that same atom gains an electron, then it becomes an anion, okay? So an ion is an atom or a molecule that has either gained an electron or lost an electron. So you can have a positive ion, which is called a cation, or you can have a negative ion, which is called an anion. So again, the gain of an electron creates a negative ion called an anion, and the loss of an electron creates a positive ion called a cation, okay? So you can say positive cat if you want to remember that, and negative an, okay? Anions, cations. Again, some of you may have learned this in chemistry. So that's what an ion is. When an atom or a molecule from its natural state loses an electron or gains an electron. Very simple, okay? Anyway, you learned about 3 months of chemistry right there, okay? Now, air, the air that's around me in this room is composed of all sorts of big molecules: nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide. And those molecules can lose or gain an electron. When they gain an electron, they become anions, okay? Or negative ions. So how does that happen? Well, for example, if you take natural negative air ions, you have NO2 minus, right? CO3 minus. These are gaining an electron, okay? So what's going on here is air molecules can do this when they pick up a negative charge from various energy sources. And listen carefully. So you have air in its, let's say, in its pure state, right? Which is all the molecules are not picking up or releasing, electrons, but that's not the normal condition. The reality is air is interacting with other energies. Well, those energy interactions result in electrons, right? As we talked about here, electrons either going into the molecules, the gaining of electrons, anion, or the loss of electrons. So you have this activity of air molecules with the natural environment. So what is the natural environment? Well, you have electromagnetic radiation, cosmic rays coming from space. You have UV light from the sun. You have lightning, okay? These are all forms of electromagnetic radiation in nature, okay? You also have mechanical energy in nature, the crashing of waves, ocean tides, fast moving water, like at a waterfalls or thunder. Well, that energy, because you have physically movement, rapid movement, what is mechanical waves, right? It's literally, movement of air at a very fast speeds, or electromagnetic radiation. When those energies take place, guess what? You can form negative ions, okay? So this is why it's interesting when you look at beaches and oceans. So waterfalls are beautiful because waterfalls actually, if you're around waterfalls, you get a lot of negative air ions. If you're around ocean tides, you get negative air ions. UV light, the sun, gives you negative air ions. And what's great about beaches and oceans, look at it, they have a combination of many of these things. They're high density of negative ions. Let me go to this. Oops, I'm not sharing this here. So ocean waves have high density of negative ions, okay? Because they have ocean tides, mechanical force, crashing waves, fast moving water, and UV light. All the things that, so there's a combination of electromagnetic radiation that you get when you go to the beach, and you get mechanical energy, pretty much all of these things. You don't get thunder, but the first three. So just look at this for a second. Beaches and oceans are a high density of negative ions, okay? High density of negative ions. You go to the beach, you're basically filled with negative ions, more than you would just get at a waterfall. Again, waterfalls are beautiful. That's when you go to them, you feel that because there's high density of negative ions, all right, from the movement of the water. But the beach has some of the most highest density of negative air ions, all right? So why is this good? Why is this good? So let's discuss that. Let's go through that. Well, first of all, there's three things, at least three things, but these are the ones I want to cover. Negative air ions, NAIs, are good for cardiovascular health. They're good for mood and behavior and immune health. Now, if you've been sitting at home all throughout the winter with this nonsense lockdowns, well, you start slowing down, right? Your blood pressure may go up for people. If you're not moving, you're gonna have circulation issues. Well, negative air ions actually help circulation. We'll hear. Mood and behavior, negative air ions really boost your, mood, really get you out of depression. We're gonna talk about that. And then negative air ions help immune health. Now, people have been social distancing, people have been told to stay home. There's a very big part of the population which can get depressed. They can get sad, and that can really affect their mood behavior. And then when they get sad, they go on antidepressants. And I did a whole video on this. More antidepressants, those antidepressants suppress your immune health. It's pretty awful. So when we look at this here, let's start with cardiovascular benefits. So one of the things that negative air ions do, by the way, remember, poor cardiovascular health, let me just take an aside. Poor cardiovascular health is a pre-existing condition, high blood pressure, for those of the people who get immunocompromised, okay? So the people who had COVID, had pre-existing conditions. One was, obesity, not good blood flow, high blood pressure, etc. But one of the really powerful things about negative air ions is NAIs improve red blood cell deformability and aerobic metabolism. Why is deformability? So if you look at a red blood cell, as it's moving, through one of these capillaries here, okay? As it's moving through these capillaries, the more, these capillaries change in size, the more it can deform, bend, and change. That means the blood can flow better. That's looking at one RBC, one red blood cell. So deformability is extremely important for it to be able to squeeze through those capillaries. If your red blood cells are stiff and they can't deform, you're not going to have as good circulation, not as good cardiovascular health. So negative air ions make your red blood cells more flexible, more deformable. So that's a very, very powerful thing for cardiovascular health, which is, extremely supportive of immune health because you're in good, your blood is flowing well, it supports your immune system. Now, negative air ions affect the vagus nerve. Now, the vagus nerve is important because that nerve actually helps lower blood pressure and it improves heart function. So negative air ions are having a very positive, from a neurochemical effect, because remember, these are ions, which have electromagnetic properties also. It's a different, or electrochemical properties that really affect the vagus nerve. So they help lower blood pressure and improve heart function. So better heart function, you obviously have better pumping of blood, which supports the immune system. So those are two very important things, right? Deformability of the red blood cells, which supports aerobic metabolism, and they lower blood pressure, okay? What negative air ions do, they actually increase your antimicrobial defense. Remember, when you go out in the sun, you're going to get more vitamin D3 separate from this, okay? But the negative air ions in that environment, in the beach, the oceans crashing, the tide, all that movement of energy is creating those negative air ions, which activate the natural killer cells, which are right here in the innate immune system, okay? So your body actually will activate those natural killer cells, which means your body is much more prepared for viruses and pathogens. So that's one of the most important things. Your body upregulates or activates those natural killer cells. This is one of the other most interesting things. Increase in salivary antibodies, IgAs, okay? And these are the bodies that affect a number of these systems. And these are the things back in your salivary gland, in the mucosa. So again, you're boosting these salivary antibodies, the IgAs, which really help, again, your immune system getting ready and prepared to fight. So think about if you've been in the winter time and you've been sitting inside your home all day, and now you're getting ready to go out and meet people and interact with the environment, with pollen. Well, you need these IgAs, which are extremely important for supporting your immune system as new pathogens come. All right, extremely important. Again, that's brought to you by negative air ions from the beaches and the oceans. The next one is that these IgAs help you build a stronger mucosal barrier and defense. And what do I mean by mucosal barrier? It's in the lining of your gut. It's in the lining of the back of your throat. The mucosa is extremely important because in the mucosa are where all your amazing immune system cells are to help protect you. So negative air ions really boost that entire mucosal layer. And finally, what has been found is that negative air ions are really better at allergy mitigation. So think about it. You've been in the winter, stuck in the in home all day, and now the springtime comes and you haven't had a chance to really beef up your immune system. This is why during the wintertime, the D3 is good, the vitamin A is good, right? The zinc, because you want to keep the immune system boosted. And allergy, by the way, just to be clear, are a reaction of your immune system, typically an overreaction, okay? Histamine reaction, but it's your body reacting to these exogenous things because your immune system is actually weakened, okay? Or it never saw certain things and didn't have a chance to get tuned. So again, the way you stop that overreaction is by supporting and modulating the immune system, which is what we're going to do, by the way, a series of these talks. I'm going to share with you many, many powerful substances like the EGCG in green tea helps modulate the immune system. But it's all about modulating the immune system. You want the immune system to attack when you want it, but you don't want it to go crazy. So what you can see here is that when you really look at these negative air ions, they really support the NK cells, they increase the salivary antibodies, and they create the strong mucosal barrier, and they're better allergy mitigation. So in conclusion, when you look at the oceans and beaches, you have high density of negative ions near the ocean beaches, and the negative air ions are immune boosters. First, strong antimicrobial activity, better allergy mitigation, strong mucosal barrier defense. And the negative air ions also provide cardiovascular benefits, which support the immune system, right? Lower blood pressure, better circulation, improve heart health. And, if you're feeling down and depressed, instead of going to these antidepressants, which further lower your immune system, the negative air ions lower depression systems. They lower SAD, seasonal affective disorder, and it's much, much better for supporting cognition. So there you go. So my view is that the fact that these governors in, I think, Portland and California are doing more lockdowns, which means people can't get easily access to the beach and have to wear masks. I mean, right here in Cambridge, we see people out of Harvard driving around in 98-degree temperature on their bicycles or running with masks on. This is absolutely nonsense. You know, people have gone, first of all, you have very naive people, what I call educated, vulnerable elites or idiots. And it's not based on real science. What I just shared with you was just the value of going to the beach, the value, and separate from even, and if you go to the beach with other friends and family, it's even more boosting the immune system. Now, if someone is sick, well, they should self-isolate themselves. If someone is immunocompromised, they should self-isolate themselves and start boosting up their immune system in protocols that I wrote to the president. But to tell all of us, to deny all of us access to the beaches, deny all of us to do that is actually going to hurt our immune system. So anyway, this is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. Again, let everyone know I'm running for United States Senate. I'm going to be doing a series of these videos over the next 49 days, choosing different topics like these. Tomorrow, I believe we're going to cover turmeric in detail. Turmeric is a very powerful herb. We're going to go really into detail on it, how it really lowers inflammation on many levels, which supports the immune system.